Hi everyone and welcome to a special recording dedicated for tomorrow's solar eclipse taking place in the sign of Gemini. Now this eclipse is a little bit rare because on one hand we won't get another eclipse in the sign of Gemini until later on in the decade, and at the same time what is extremely rare, it is like the spicing, is that the eclipse is conjunct the ruling planet of Gemini, Mercury, in retrograde. And if that wasn't enough, Mercury retrograde and this new moon are squaring Neptune from a dual sign of Pisces. So this energy is extremely, let's say, hard to process, hard to interpret. It does serve a really noble and great purpose because it has to basically catapult us both collectively and individually towards our futures, the North Node in Gemini. And let's just say without the Neptune square, and if Mercury wouldn't be retrograde at this time, well, it would be a really wonderful energy of clarity, of being so confident and sure of ourselves, where the light of our rationality just shines like the sun. But that's not really the case. It is quite the opposite. This is where the light of our rationality does try its best to shine like a sun, but there is also very many different layers to it. Mercury retrograde, the past mistakes, past tactics which failed us, other people, communications, what do we think, what do others think, what is correct logically, what is correct rationally, what is also correct spiritually, what does resonate, what doesn't resonate, who can we trust, who can we not trust. So all these energies mix in together, and to make this even, let's say, verse a little bit, it happens at the same time when Uranus and Saturn perfect their second square, and that is an extremely chaotic energy, both mentally, both emotionally. Taurus value system, what we love, what brings us pleasure, what we would like to take with us into the future. So basically it's safe to say that even though this eclipse is extremely powerful and it is quite life-changing, we may not get to the clarity of it until later on towards July, even the end of July. Right now, the dominant factor, in my humble opinion, is the square to Neptune. So basically, this is where our soul really takes us, where it kind of senses that we need to go. And this is the saving grace, because our minds are not that reliable. The information that we possess right now is not that reliable. Not because it's true, not true or false, but rather because we are still processing it, Mercury retrograde, filtering it, overthinking it. And this is where the overthinking is actually a must. And at the same time, there is the question, what do we really want? Who it is that we truly are? What part of the past is positive, as in life experience, know-how, tactics which did always work? What part of the past is, outdated, no longer serves, or it is totally invalid under the present conditions in this day and age? And also the Saturn retrograde. We learned and studied and learned to master so very many different things all throughout our lifetimes. So even that, what part of that is still valid and what part of that must we release because it's no longer part of the present, not to mention the future. So that's why this energy is a little bit really complicated. And at the same time, there is also a factor of spiritual shock. And this might not have anything to do with the Gemini eclipse itself, but rather the Sagittarian total lunar eclipse that we had on the 26th of May. That's a very, very short time. And that Sagittarian eclipse kind of acted like a symbolically to be understood contrast substance, highlighting the obvious, but the obvious was perhaps not very constructive, so to speak, because what did the Sagittarian eclipse tell us? Dogma, religion, fixed ideologies, blind faith, and, very strong belief is not healthy, and it's not gonna get us anywhere, and it's not reliable, and we don't live in the timeline anymore, where if we just fixate on something and give it all our powers, our beliefs, our, fiery Sagittarian energy, it is like almost a certain path to hit the jackpot. We will get what we fixate on. This is where it highlighted to us that we don't live in that age, in that timeline, and in that world anymore. That old trick is not gonna work, neither collectively and personally. So if we want to fixate on something, well, on one hand, we have to know how subjective everything in existence truly is. The divine actually wants to be subjective because that is the whole point of multidimensionality, being able to have so many various creations, one so very different from another, So singularity, fixation, and dogmatic approach to anything, may that be something very concrete, very down to earth, is no longer a healthy way of doing it. And that felt like a part of our powers, a part of our own personal strength being taken away, stripped away from us. Because, our generation at least, not to mention the older generations, well, everything that life taught them is that if you fixate on something, let's say hard work, focus, be determined, be, steady, reliable, believe no matter what, that is the right path to getting what you want or anything in career, in love, in magic, in emotional matters. So name an area of life which you want. Everything was kind of susceptible to this, but this is where the eclipse kind of cut off that energy once and for all. So that is the past, that is history, that is something that we write in our magical journals, let's say, of how life used to be, of how reality, magic, willpower used to function before. And now we're in the great unknown, and no one knows how this new functions. And this is exactly the essence of the Gemini eclipse. All of us are researching and studying it and drawing our own conclusions of how reality functions now, personally, individually, and there are some conclusions, some truths, some revelations, epiphanies, call it whatever you want, which we cannot share with others because they're highly personal. We live in an age of, yes, unity, but at the same time that unity is within great separation. So we don't really function as one. The unity functions if we allow our individuality and distinctiveness to be an addition to the unity. If we say, no, we don't want to be an addition, well, that already breaks the mechanics, so to speak. So this is like a huge chaos. This is when we have like a chemical mixture composing of, let's say, 3 liquids or 3 layers, 3 elements, and the chemical reactions only takes place if you heat up that mixture and shake it violently, the chaos. So basically that is what's going on right now. The universe, the divine, is heating it and shaking it, and the chemical reactions are taking place, and they are overwhelming mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, economically, call it whatever you want. We are kind of being overwhelmed. So this is where the astrology part, well, it is a little bit mysterious because no astrologer ever had this experience. So how can we anticipate what is coming, what is being born, what is basically passing away? So that's why I had this inspiration to ask the divine to basically just give us any kind of guidance it can inspire, so that we may at least have a non-rational understanding of what's going on. And at the same time, this is where I personally have to rely on divine guidance 100%, because this eclipse and Mercury retrograde is taking place exactly on my moon. So my mind and basically me as a human being are debilitated. I do believe that I had higher and better and more rational cerebral functions when I was in first grade than I do right now. But Neptune is always a saving grace because, the divine energy just flows. So I'll try my best to work with that. An eclipse is always, and this is outside of astrology, the meeting of light and dark, where the light also casts its shadow. And to play with this theme, I've done 2 spreads. One of the spreads is the message of the creational light aspect, the sun, and the other one is the message of the shadowy aspect, the unknown, the mysterious, the moon. So first of all, let's take a look at the sun's inspiration, and here we have the World card, the moon reversed, the Ace of Coins, the Two of Swords reversed, and the Death as a resolution where this is guiding us, and the Magician as a clarifier. Now this is so very on point and in symbolic, because the World card, this is where a new chapter for us personally has to begin, like it or not. This is basically the very fabric, the very construct of reality. And ready or not, know what we're doing or not, have a clear image or clear know-how, plans, whatever that is or not, it is still coming. Something is definitely being born. And at the same time, there is the old eclipse, the Sagittarius lunar eclipse. So at the same time, something is also being completed, and these two take place simultaneously. How very suggestive of Gemini, who can do 2 things at the same time. Now also the World card is really, really positive, because one way or another it promises us that if we made it so far, and the World card is also made it gracefully, made it with diligence, dignity, wisdom. We are not just our wild and immature selves, but this is where all of us, again, Gemini duality, at the same time we embodied a true soul level maturity, and at the same time we returned to innocence. We returned to the very core of who it is that we are. The World card, Saturn, the beginning and the end. This is where we passed the exam of existence itself, of earthly life. This is where we really made it through one of the chapters of this Earth School. So after an exam, something has to start in our lives where we can truly work with what we learned quite practically. Now the Moon card in reversed is perhaps not the best possible sign, emotionally speaking at least, because things do feel extremely chaotic. As I said, maybe I'm not the only one who feels a little bit mentally debilitated. And we don't even know what truth is. We don't even know if there is truth at all. What we do know is that we're here right now. We are living, breathing, we sense everything. And at the same time, if we made it so far, well, that means that we are going to be part of the future one way or another. So at least that can be the light at the end of the tunnel, even if our minds and sometimes not even our emotions can help us that much anticipate what is coming. And another very important factor here, the moon reversed. In this period between the eclipses, many of us might have manifested our fears, or we might have attracted certain situations in our lives which really was a reflection of that which we feared the most. Maybe not in a material, physical way, maybe just a situation, maybe just a hypothesis, a possibility, a state, a mental state, let's say, an emotional state, a truth that we didn't want to look at ever, and we still got that. So this period between the eclipses kind of really shook us to our cores, and this Ace of Coins adds another element to it. There was a side of all of this which didn't really depend on us, so it doesn't matter how we lived it through, good or bad, gracefully or maybe victimizing ourselves a little bit or feeling really sorry for ourselves. It doesn't really matter because there was a physical element to it. Believe it or not, the cards suggest that this DNA activation that everyone is kind of talking about actually took place, and it really targeted the root chakra. So our physical adaptability, our link and connection to nature. So even if this was invisible to us, even if this took place totally outside our awareness or knowledge, we are already connected to nature, the earth, the element of earth in a way that we have never been before. And many of us might have experienced like physical pains, back pains, muscle pains, or like an extreme fatigue, but that was like our chakra activating and basically having a totally different resonance. And for many of us, this will result in a massive change in our material situations and how we live our lives in a very earthly manner. This is also where, a lot of us have done a lot of self-worth, self-esteem, self-respect, self-love kind of work in the past couple of years, or for some people going way back. Yet even though that was extremely beneficial, that was like profoundly soothing and healing, we might not have really seen the physical manifestation of that. And this is what's coming, the actual physical manifestation of that. Of course, this doesn't mean riches and luxury. It means groundedness, stability, and for us to be able to survive comfortably within our comfort zones, because that is where we operate from, both spiritually, mentally, and from every single perspective, the best. So this is a profoundly regenerative and healing energy. On the other hand, there is also a mental element to this. This Two of Swords reversed, choices, decisions. We didn't know, and we might not even know yet, what we want to do, how we want to do it. The future doesn't make any sense whatsoever, not because of us, but because of the world, because of that which is outside of us, in total disharmony. And of course, the Two of Swords is also options lacking, options that were taken away from us, stolen from us. Maybe legislation, again, Two of Swords, Libra, legislation or the law or the general rule blocked us and totally cast us out from the collective, not just energetically speaking, but perhaps materially and socially as well. And this Death card represents, well, that was the essence of everything. That was the most profound change, because if we were cast out, if we were like separated, and again I say, this didn't really depend on what we wanted, who it is that we were, our mindset or everything. It simply happened either socially or materially, physically, we lost the job, or we were rejected by society, friends, etc., but in a very, let's say, upfront manner where we really got the message, where we really felt like the ugly duckling in the past couple of years. And this is where the death card tells us it is only now after the eclipse when we will see the greater reason behind that. And chances are this was the change that we so much needed in our lives, because this totally ends the chapter where we are kind of part of, symbolically to be understood, the machine of society, the legal side, the human interconnectedness side. This is where we kind of connect to nature, but a much more intelligent, and I would dare to say even cunning side of nature, which we may have never ever experienced before, neither spiritually or in any way, shape or form. So the feelings and the emotions that we're going to sense when connecting after this eclipse to nature, to the source, to whatever, our surroundings, is gonna be so very different, but in a good way. And that is gonna lead us to find our true choices. And as I said, our material lives are definitely gonna change, where it doesn't matter how it plays out for us personally, it will definitely represent our comfort zone, our, symbolically to be understood, exoskeleton, which is a really tough armor. And as a clarifier, the magician, this is where we're being taught by nature herself how to be masters of our own reality. And this is a little bit ironic, because this is where old philosophies, techniques, the quick and easy way how to fix life, certain psychological tricks like self-hypnosis, law of manifestation, law of attraction, that which is really quick and easy and too good to be true. Well, if they haven't worked that well before, this is where they will stop working for good. And it is nature within us, within our genes, within our beings, that will teach us how to navigate and how to embody our new magic once more. A new magic which is basically based on the most ancient expression of spirituality and magic, and not the period in between the two. So basically, believe it or not, know it or not, understand it or not, this is where we're really being catapulted to a place, and don't understand this physically or as a location, but a state of being where we truly always needed to be, that which was promised to us, our own place of power, our own seat and throne, where we can be the magicians, masters of our own existence and life, and just know always what we're doing with ourselves and with the elements around us. Now, on the other side, the messages of the shadow. We have the Five of Cups reversed, the Star, the Six of Wands, Death reversed, again the theme death, the Tower, and as a clarifier, the Empress. Now, the Five of Cups reversed is so very important, because we are healing our soul level wounds, the very sharp daggers that we got projected into our beings all throughout this existence and perhaps some older existences. And we might have done our part of the work, everything that was in our powers, confrontation, the truth, seeking our truth, healing, releasing, forgiving, being able to love again, understanding other people, that everyone is basically a victim of their own surroundings, own stories, own failures, own obsessions and desires, etc. And basically what we have done is just to disinfect the wound, to cauterize it, maybe to bind it. And this is where the eclipse is leading us towards true healing, because what truly closes the wound is to live the opposite of what it feels like to be wounded. So basically, our karmas, our destinies, this north node, if this is an acceptable term to use, is gonna undisappoint us. It is gonna make all those things within us, especially emotional and psychological factors, which do cause a permanent state of disappointment within us, as in, this is too good to be true, this is just an example, or oh, this is way too big for me, I'm a too small person, I'm not that magical, I am not that special, this can't possibly be part of my story. But of course, don't understand this in the wrong way. This is not material in nature, neither social. This is Five of Cups, so this is something purely psychological and emotional. So this is what the karmic forces will do. Crystallize everything that profoundly disappointed us and prove it wrong. Give us the opposite of this. So basically, if this word even exists in English, on disappointment, undo that which disappointed us. And at the end of the day, once we live that, once we get that shock and surprise, that will deeply root itself into our minds. And that is what is going to create new mental patterns, where it is the star, hope, faith, truly believing not just on a soul level, which is almost like struggling, but also mentally, practically mentally, not just, our higher thinking and, our deepest philosophies, but practical everyday life, which will prove it every single day. When our hopes are built on deep faith, on true love for what we want to experience, and of course good intent, because let's not forget, the universe is a living, breathing, singularly acting organism, so we have to be in tune with its harmony. That's why our desires, our deepest passions, have to be at least innocent, so not to harm or not to destabilize anyone or anything else. But once we embody that, whatever we hope, whatever we focus on is really gonna be part of our lives. This is where true optimism will really work like a charm. And perhaps this is why we have to be separate from the collective, where this is actually the opposite, where a much more pessimistic, a much more, let's say, godless state of being is the normality. And the Six of Wands, it is triumph, it is victory, it is being able to really, really live life in such a way that it suits who it is that we are at the very core of our being. If you see the symbolism, the butterfly, the metamorphosis is complete. So the greatest victory, the greatest possible triumph is freedom. Freedom to be who we are. Freedom to just rejoice in our own beauty and innocence. And now the death reverse. If you just look at the other spread, the death there meant that the change is really gonna take place right now. It is unstoppable. It is change at its most profound form. In this side, it is reversed. So it means that, the change might have caused all of us a lot of losses, a lot of things we had to surrender, a lot of, purging and elimination of material stuff, job, desires, objects, people, positions, dreams, etc. And that was the Tower moment in our lives. That is the chapter that is being closed right now. So the death reverse is regeneration, rebirth. The tower which has fallen, well, it left behind a lot of construction material that we are using to rebuild it. But our new towers are not gonna be like an artificial construct. They are gonna be co-created with nature. It's almost like our new towers are not majestic, ivory towers where we arrogantly just look at the world from above, but they're gonna be tree houses, simple but living, giving us back the sense of adventure, and ultimately the clarifier, the Empress. Just look at the other spread, the magician, as a masters of our own reality. But what do we do with mastery? It is the Empress. Enjoy every moment of life and find meaning and beauty to it. For some people, it's gonna be like really profound physical well-being, moments of happiness. For others, it is love. For others, it is creativity. For others, it is having a very deep connection and communion with nature. For others, it's living a beautiful life and embodying a beautiful person, because once the soul is beautiful, it turns the external shell into sheer beauty. So some people will actually experience a very profound physical change. Again, the DNA activation, the root chakra, the inner beauty has to become outer beauty. But, before all of this takes place, in the now, we might experience this as chaos, as shock, as fears, as anxiety, the moon reversed. We might still be facing our fears. We might still be facing our frustrations, sadness, or for some people even depression. But if there is one singular message in both the light and the shadow, well, that is that we are being guided to what truth means for us. And once any being lives in its truth, well, that is its own personal paradise. And also, we have already done the work. It doesn't matter what we live, what we experience, what we do right now, how lost or found we are feeling. The work is done, so we are gonna be harvesting the fruits of that labor. So basically, this concludes today's guidance. I do hope that you found at least a tiny bit of inspiration in it. Thank you so much for listening. I wish everyone a blessed and magical eclipse. And eclipses are meant to be chaotic, and they are meant to be felt as moments of crisis and tension. So let the knowledge and the old wisdom that everything good has to be born out of, maximum tension. Even the moment when we are born, our mothers are in pain. For some, it's excruciating pain. For others, it's not as tough, but pain is still pain. So just know that what we're experiencing now is that pain of being born, because it's also painful for the baby. The very first breath might be magical, might be fantastic, might be a miracle in itself, but imagine how the air burns the lungs. It stings because it never took one breath ever before. It was always inside the mother, inside the cocoon, and now it's outside. So that is the pain of being born. So try your best not to allow this chaos to take away your hopes and dreams. You're still getting to where you need to be. Thank you again. If you'd like to support my work, you can find the link to the PayPal in the description below. Wish everyone an amazing and wonderful day. Until next time, bye for now.